Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another live stream in the bar. Let me know what you guys are drinking. Let me know how you guys are feeling. We've got a few things to talk about today, and I got to remind you, before you leave the bar today, make sure you pay your bar tabs, okay? What that consists of is hitting the like button and hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already. They're both free, okay? That's all I ask, is to pay your bar tabs before you leave the bar, right? Otherwise, the authorities will come after you. Now, also, I want to remind everybody that when we reach 10,000 subscribers, I'm giving away 10,000 Caspa. So that might be some incentive to hit that subscribe button too. It's free, and you have a chance to win 10,000 Caspa once the subscriber count gets up to 10,000. Now, we're just sitting just under 6,000 right now, so we have a little ways to go, obviously. I'm hoping that we can get there during this bull run before the end of the year. So, help me out. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button before you leave the stream today. Okay. Johnny Tacos, man from Bogota. Augustine, the what ups. Stefan, Jerry, Jay, Laredo Apple, Blue Bullet, welcome in. I appreciate every single one of you for hanging out and joining me on this beautiful Friday evening, at least Friday evening where I am. I am sure that some of you guys have very different time zones than I do. But let's get started. First thing that I want to talk about today is we'll go over a couple updates in the Caspa atmosphere ecosystem, and then we'll answer some questions. So get your questions in as well, guys. And we'll spend the last half of the stream answering questions. Okay. First things first, Castle Wallet. For those of you who haven't heard, it's a wallet that is being, developed on Caspa, and they have officially launched their mobile wallet. So this is another mobile wallet option for everybody in the Kaspa space. I downloaded my own wallet. You don't even need a seed phrase. It's just a thumbprint and a passcode, 6-digit passcode that you have to remember, and that will log you into your wallet. Remember, this is a hot wallet, so I wouldn't keep a ton of money on it. But it's another option, and it's cool that it is a mobile. It has mobile capabilities because most wallets that have been built on Caspa to this point do not. So that's good. Now, the one knock I have, I asked them what their plans are for this, but I haven't heard back. There's no DEX and no swapping feature inside this wallet, so it's literally just import, export, buy, and sell. So you can't do a whole lot except for, store your Caspa there at this point. But it is cool that it has the mobile feature. Because most wallets in the Caspa space right now are, Chrome extensions, and you can only access them on the desktop computer, and most people want to have their phone in their hand, be able to access quickly with their phone. So go check them out on X. They have the link on their X page for the Google Play and the Apple app stores on each phone. So you can go in there and download a wallet. It doesn't hurt to download one, and if you never put anything in it, you never put anything in it, but it's there, set up on your phone, ready to go if you ever do need to. Okay? Secondly, interesting news for Michael Sutton. So this I tried reading all of this, and it's very technical, and I wanted to pretend that I knew everything that he was talking about, but let's be honest, I don't. I'm not a crazy technical guy. I understand base layer stuff, but when it gets beyond that, it's kind of hard for my brain to comprehend. It's basically what they're planning on roadmap-wise for upgrades in the future. Go ahead and check out Michael Sutton's page on X. If you guys don't follow him, I recommend it. He puts out some updates on a somewhat regular basis, and some of his verbiage, I guess, he's a very smart human, and big words and words that a lot of normal people don't understand. So, awesomely enough, one of the comments down below asked Grok to summarize for regular people. And this does a better job of putting it in, kind of a realm that most basic people can better understand. Maybe not fully, but better. So what I got out of this, you guys can go and read this yourself, or even, I guess not screenshot the screen because it doesn't have the full the full article in here. But from what I got from this, just to summarize it in a couple sentences, is they apparently, developer-wise, had put a pause on the DAG-Knight updates, okay? Because the community was asking basically for smart contracts, right? And zero-knowledge, ZK smart contracts. And so they put the emphasis on that first. And what this article is saying, and that way they can focus on that, what this article is saying is that they've realized that they can actually do both at once because they don't really interfere with each other in the background while they are trying to, update code and do whatever they need to do in the background to advance DAG-Knight protocol and smart contracts all at the same time. So it kind of sounds like they're going to now start working on DAG-Knight again, which is, I believe, the 100 blocks a second. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's what that is. Either that or the 32 blocks a second, which I have heard might be their next step. Either way, they're going to be working on both simultaneously, and it sounds like they're going to be able to do that. And so DAG-Knight, in theory, will come quicker. Smart contracts should be coming out this month or next month. I think this month, actually. And so we're going to see some pretty spectacular upgrades coming up in the near future. So if you guys want to read this whole entire thing, I'm not going to bore everybody with it on the stream, but it's on Michael Sutton's X page, and you can go down and find the comment from Seb, and there might be more people that have done this too, because I'm sure I wasn't, and Seb wasn't the only person that couldn't fully understand the whole entire thing, and get kind of a summary, easier to digest summary of what was said by Michael Sutton based on AI. So, good news there, because basically what that means is they're going to upgrade the blocks per second sooner than they originally planned, probably, because they're able to focus on that at the same time as smart contracts. So, good news there. Next, I saw this photo. Somebody posted this on X, and originally I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Until you realize that this logo isn't even the Caspa logo. So, Long Journey had posted, "No way, Rampage Jackson owns Caspa. It's reaching mini," with eyeball emojis. And for those of you who don't know who Rampage Jackson is, he is a former UFC fighter. He was very good at what he did, and he was one of the top UFC fighters in his prime. He's now almost 50 years old, I believe, and so he doesn't fight anymore. But he's very well known in that community, and if this was true, would actually be a pretty bullish scenario. But the color is right, but that isn't a backwards K, and it might even be AI generated in the hat. Let me know what you guys think down below. If you think that, even though that's not backwards, it could still potentially be the Caspa K. Or maybe it's just AI generated and it literally doesn't mean anything. But even his shirt has the same color. You can't read what it says. I wish this person had posted the actual TikTok video rather than just an image of the video, and maybe it would give us some more context in what's actually going on there. But they didn't, and maybe they didn't for a reason. I don't know. Either way, I'd love to know what you guys think down below. For any of you guys who saw my video, actually it was today, this morning, giving a few different reasons why it seems like the bull run is kind of back on, right? That the pumps that we've seen over the past few days seem to mimic those of what you see in a bull run, right? Because you were watching the portfolio and many different coins actually get legitimate sized pumps, right? Not parabolic window sized pumps, but bull market in general sized pumps where it, and maybe not even size, but just the way they were reacting. You were seeing some decent movement, and then a little pullback, and then some more decent movement to another high with a little bit of a pullback, and then another decent high with a little bit of a pullback. And the overall movement wasn't huge, but the way it was happening seemed more bull market-esque than it has over the last year. Okay? So you have to pair that with the fact that Ethereum has now started to move. And I've told you guys before, Ethereum is the front runner for altcoins, okay? If Ethereum is not going to move, then it doesn't give trust to the rest of the altcoin market to move. So we are rooting for Ethereum to move, and what that's going to do is trickle down and give confidence to the rest of the altcoins to follow suit. Okay? And Ethereum, on its Bitcoin pair, has made a pretty significant move. And I know my arm is blocking what I'm trying to show you, so give me 1 second so I can move this over. But if you see, this move right here is pretty decent. Can I circle that? Yeah. That move right there is pretty decent, and it looks like, based on last cycle, that ETH has potentially bottomed against Bitcoin, which is a good sign, right? If you look at this right here, it hit that trend line, and back here it hit that trend line. Same trend line, okay? Now, last cycle it double bottomed, so maybe You get a little relief rally here, and we come back down and double bottom. But remember, this is on its Bitcoin pair. This isn't USD value. So you could have it go down on its Bitcoin pair while both are pumping. It's just Bitcoin's pumping faster. And the USD value could be going up while this chart right here goes down and hits this trend line again. That's possible. Okay? And it's the same scenario as this chart. Remember, we've talked about this chart before as well. This trend line, let me shrink this a little bit so we can get a better view of all of it here. Altcoins in general, the whole altcoin market, not just Ethereum, have also made this relief rally, okay? Right here. And there is still a possibility that this also goes down and hits this trend line. Okay? ETH has already hit its trend line based on last cycle. Altcoins as a whole have not. So there's a chance that this still has to play out. And remember, that doesn't necessarily mean altcoins need to be going down. That just means Bitcoin is still outperforming altcoins, even if they're all going up on their USD value. Okay? It could go either way. But it doesn't necessarily mean they have to go down again, although that is a possibility as well. In 2017, I'm going to reiterate this again, it's not on this chart because for some reason I cannot find it going back to 2017. I used to have it in here, and now the chart is cut and only starts in 2019. But in 2017, altcoins were at this trend level on their Bitcoin pairs in November of 2017, right? And then they went parabolic right after that. So there is the view that they can't actually go parabolic until they hit this trend line. And that could take us up until November, potentially. We only need a month or two for a parabolic phase of the cycle, okay? We'll have turbulence in between. We might be at higher USD levels at that point in time, but we might be lower on Bitcoin pairs at that time, potentially. And at that point, in Q4, we should go parabolic. So there's a chance, and I still think that this could probably happen, where this goes down and hits this trend line down here, behind my shoulder, okay? So keep an eye on that. And I also have mentioned that Q3 tends to be, in most years, pretty turbulent. So we might see something crazy happen in Q3, although Q1 is usually bullish, and we had a horrible Q1 this year. So maybe that flips and Q3 is actually bullish since Q1 wasn't. Who knows? Right? Anything's at play, but I do still think in Q4 we are still going to get a month or two of parabolic price action for altcoins, okay? And you got to remember, rate cuts are supposed to happen. It's still betting. The betting odds are still September, but the Fed is now not ruling out. I saw earlier yesterday that they could cut either this month or next month, which July or August, obviously. So a surprise rate cut in July or August would really propel and spring the altcoin market and the market in general upwards, okay? We also, the big beautiful bill passed, right? That's $3 trillion, I believe, in money that is just going to be spilled out into the economy, and a lot of that money is probably going to go into the market at some point. And the the Genius Act was just signed today. Okay, it passed the House yesterday. It was signed today on Donald Trump's desk, and that gives legitimacy, more legitimacy, to the crypto space and stable coins. Okay, and so without going over all of the boring details of that bill, it is a very positive thing for the crypto space. And with all these bullish catalysts, macro and, Caspa specific bullish catalysts with smart contracts, tier ones still haven't listed, and Bitcoin maxis starting to flock into Caspa. I could go on and on and on about the bullish catalysts for Caspa specifically. You mix that with the macro bullish catalysts that are literally happening before our eyes, right? The markets will move at some point. And sometimes they don't move on these bullish news scenarios, but they will move after the fact, okay? With all of this stuff happening, I cannot imagine, and it's very hard for me to envision us dumping into a bear market when everything seems to be lining up for Q4. So, let me know what you guys think. It seems like, with some recent videos that I've made, the vibe shift in the Caspa circle, as well as the altcoin market starting to pump a little bit, all of the sentiment seems to be flipping to the positive. And I think this is just the start. Okay? What do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm full of shit? Let me know in the comment section. And lastly, you guys remember this photo, okay? Because this is how crypto bull markets happen. History tells us, okay? There's only technically been 2 legit cycles. You could say 2013 was a cycle, but it was so new, who knows? But phase 1, flow of money moves into Bitcoin, causing price surges. What does that sound like? We were witnessing Bitcoin literally ripping faces off. With as big of a market cap as it is, Bitcoin outperforming everything. That is phase 1. We literally are seeing that as we speak, or maybe we just hit the end of that. Time will tell. Okay? Phase 2. Ethereum. Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin, and we hear talks of the flippening, okay? We haven't heard talks of the flippening. This has just started, but that candle that I showed you guys on the ETH Bitcoin chart tells a little bit of a story that we might be heading into phase 2, okay? Bitcoin dominance is going to start to drop. It will at some point. Is that this point right now? Yet to be seen. But that huge green candle on ETH Bitcoin chart says that we might be entering that phase, okay? Money flows into Ethereum, but it struggles to keep up with Bitcoin. Sorry, this is phase 1. Ethereum goes back and forth with Bitcoin and starts outperforming it, okay? So we'll start to see a little bit... Sorry, my phone's ringing. Let me cancel this. We got to call him back. Sorry. So you'll see a little bit of back and forth between Bitcoin outperforming, ETH outperforming, Bitcoin outperforming, ETH outperforming. And maybe this is the start of ETH, showing it's still alive, showing that it got knocked down, it got knocked out, but it's going to get back up and it's going to perform again. Okay? That's phase 2. Money is starting to trickle into large caps where we see large buy-ups happening. Okay? Phase 3, large caps, Solana, XRP, Cardano, all of the top 10 basically, right? Top 15, okay? You've started to see, and this can interchange a little bit. This doesn't have to be perfectly set in stone of what happens first. You can get a little bit of mixing in between them, but we've seen XRP start to move a little bit. We've seen Cardano start to move a little bit, and I'm not a fan of either of those two projects, but that's part of the cycle, right? They're going to pump. They're not going to do as big of gains as some of the mid caps and the smaller caps because the market cap's already so big that you'll make some money, but you're not going to make probably life-changing money unless you started with a lot of money to begin with, okay? Large caps will start to move. Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin, and large caps are going parabolic. So large caps have not started going parabolic yet. We've seen a little movement. Ethereum, we are still, I would imagine, going to see this phase where Ethereum confidently and significantly starts to outperform Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin dominance starts to drop. ETH dominance starts to go up, okay? When large caps start to go parabolic, then we enter phase 3. And then phase 4 is full-blown alt season, where a lot of this money from ETH and large caps start flowing into the altcoins. You've got it all over the media. You've got people FOMOing into dog coins and literally anything and everything. And this phase 4 is where a lot of people make life-changing money, right? And it's the people who were able to endure everything over the last couple years who are going to make the most money. Because by the time phase 4 starts, altcoins are already going to be up multiple X's, okay? So any of us who got in right now and over the last year or two, we got in before the masses are going to come in multiple X's above us and start pumping our bags, okay? And in phase 4 of alt season, this is when us who have been around, who are more savvy than the retail guys, coming in and FOMOing in to these pumps after we've already made multiple X's, this is when we're going to start to take profits, right? When the parabolic phase starts and everybody else is jumping into the market on FOMO, we're going to be calm, cool, and collective. We're going to be excited, right? We're going to have some euphoria, but we are going to be the investors that are going to start slowly selling our bags because we know that this phase 4 right here, altcoin season, does not last very long. You're going to hear people say that it's never going to go down. You're going to hear people say, I just want 2 more X's. I just want 3 more X's. I just want 4, right? They're going to not understand the crypto market, and they're not going to understand that after this phase right here, which usually only lasts a couple months, we are going to pretty abruptly go down into a bear market based on history, okay? And we want to sell our bags before that happens. So that is why we are going to make more money. In my first cycle, I was one of those FOMO retail buyers, and I made a little bit of money, right? Because in alt season, you can throw money into a lot of different things and still make some profit. But the amount of profit that you're going to make is not life-changing, right? Unless you start with a big amount or you get extremely lucky, okay? Those are the 2 ways that you're going to make a lot of money when things are already up 5-ish X and you're FOMOing in, midway to the top, okay? The vast majority of people might make a little bit of money, but they're not going to make a lot of money. And then a lot of those people are going to round trip their bags back into the bear market because they don't understand the nature of the 4-year crypto cycle. And that's what this community, and I'm sure there's other communities out there, that are going to preach to you during that time, this phase 4 of alt season, that we need to be level-headed, we need to be calm, cool, and collected, we need to understand that this is not going to last very long, and we need to sell and make our profits, okay? You can hold things if you want to back into the bear market, but understand that the prices are going to go very low again, okay? And that anything that you're wanting to sell, you need to sell it during this phase 4. And that is how we're going to make money, right? And again, I'll reiterate that when phase 4 starts, for us, we're already going to be up multiple X's. It's the retail FOMO that comes in after us that are going to be pumping our bags to even more X's, right? And that is the phase that we're going to start selling our profits in, okay? And there's multiple different ways we can do that, and I will be right here telling you exactly how I'm doing it when the time comes and when I actually sell, what I'm actually selling, what percentage I'm actually selling, so that you guys can have an idea of what I'm doing. Now, you don't need to copy me, right? But it'll give you an idea of my outlook and what I'm actually doing to kind of help anybody who isn't sure or is getting, panicked of what they should do during that period of time. So, stay tuned, because it kind of seems like right now, right? And this pump may not last, okay? But it has lasted longer than any pump that I can remember in the last year or so. And it seems like that altcoins have kind of started their engines, right? They haven't moved a whole lot, but if you've ever been to a racetrack, right, they start their engines, they rev their engines before they actually race, okay? They check their tires by squealing, up, 10 feet or so, and then they reverse back to the starting line again, just to make sure their brakes and their tires sticky enough and they work. That seems like the phase that we might have just started, right? We might have started phase 2 where ETH has woken up a little bit and is going to start outperforming Bitcoin. The fun times could be literally right around the corner, okay? So just be prepared. Kind of getting their feet wet right now would be another analogy, okay? The water looks good. They're stepping in the water. They're getting their feet wet a little bit, but they haven't fully taken the dive and the swim into the pool yet, okay? They're barely getting started. Okay, let's answer a few questions. I do want to go into the scenario. I still see a lot of people in the comments, and I pay no attention to them because I know they haven't been in the market very long, and that's why they're thinking the way that they think. But the patience, you guys, the patience. There's a lot of people out there that do not have patience. And Warren Buffett preaches, right? Invest in good projects and just wait. And you will be successful when it's all said and done. A lot of people, I think, come into this crypto space and think that they're going to get rich quick, okay? And some do, but it's a very, very, very small percentage. You have got to either know somebody, right, or be in the inside small group of a project before it launches, or you just have to get extremely lucky of doing a ton of research, finding a project, right, and even that doesn't guarantee anything, getting into it before it, barely gets off the ground, and riding the initial pump and selling. And usually that happens with a lot of meme coins, but the vast majority of people, I know you hear stories on the news, but that's like one or two people that made, $5 million off of a $1,000 buy in Dogecoin, or input meme coin of your choice into the Dogecoin scenario. But that's very, very, very far few and in between. The percentages are very low of people doing that. The problem is you hear it on the news and you're like, oh, if he can do it, I can do it. And then you go FOMO into a certain coin and you lose all your money because you don't understand that that coin is already pumped and the initial pump is probably the only pump it's going to get. So you don't, the mindset needs to be when you come into this space, you need to understand that you're probably not going to get rich quick, okay? Congratulations to you if you do. More props to you because it's very difficult for that to happen. You need to do research. You need to engulf yourself in the space and understand what you're investing in, right? Don't invest in anything that you don't understand. And then have a conviction in what you're investing in, and then just wait until the parabolic phase of the cycle, because every cycle it comes, and then you sell, okay? If you think it's going to be a multi-cycle coin, you can hold some of it in, through the bear market into the next cycle if you want to. But more often than not, that's risky. Taking your profits is usually the best thing to do just in case, okay? But Caspa seems like it's going to be one of those multi-cycle coins, okay? Not a knock on Caspa at all, but I would still recommend that you take your initials out so that if, God forbid, something does happen, you at least come out with your money back, okay? Hold a percentage of your bag, but sell some, make some money, because usually the biggest gains are in the first cycle, and, have fun with the money, and then in the depths of the bear market, focus back in and reaccumulate Caspa at the bottom when it's, at a dirt cheap price again. That is my game plan for this cycle. I'm going to hold a percentage, I'm going to sell a percentage, and then I'm going to invest back into it at the depths of the bear market when you're getting it for a dirt cheap price again. Think about Bitcoin, right? You could have held Bitcoin all the way through first cycle, second cycle, third cycle, up until now, and you would have done excellent, right? But you really, during that process, you wouldn't have had any money to go out and have fun with or spend. On paper you're rich for a certain period of time, and then you're poor again on paper, and then you're even more rich, and then you're poor again, and then you're even more rich. If you would have just taken some of the profits but held a percentage, you would probably still have a hell of a lot of Bitcoin, but you also would have been able to have fun and buy some things with the money that you sold it at because you would have made a ton of, X's in the process. And so that's what I'm trying to, that's the point I'm trying to get across, is to, maybe hold some, but also have fun with some profits. Because that's what makes it fun, in my opinion, is that you can do both, right? You don't have to take 100% of your profits. You don't have to sell. You don't have to hold 100% of your bags. You don't have to sell 100% of your profits. Okay? You can find a happy medium and have fun with some profits as well as holding some through the bear market if you want to and into next cycle. Okay? I think that that's the most fun way to do it because then you can, depending on how much crypto you have, you can go buy a house, right? But you still have your bag of Caspa, that's your long-term bag that you can feel comfortable with holding through the bear market since you did take profits and you realized, some of your gains and you have a good amount of money now. So that's the way I look at it anyways. Okay. Let's move on up. Johnny Tacos says, let's go. Let me get this internet stuff out of the background here. Man from Bogota. Hi, Kat. How you doing? I'm actually doing pretty well today. My fiance and child are... By the way, she's 8 months old now, which is crazy because it seemed like yesterday that she was born, or out of town. So I have the house to myself for a week, which is actually kind of relaxing, to be honest. The last 8 months have been crazy with a newborn. So I'm doing well today. Just enjoying the... well, you know what's funny? I was going to say enjoying the pumps in the market, but we're actually correcting again. It seems like every single time that I go live, the market is in the red. It must be a Friday thing. Before the weekends, the market just decides to correct. So I never get to actually stream during my normal streaming hours right now with, green candles. It would make things more exciting, I would imagine, right? Also, how are you doing, man from Bogota? That's the most important question. I hope you are doing well. Back at it with another green tea in hand. Cheers. The what-ups, yes. Also, I have a green tea today. It's in a can, but it's no additives. It's just straight green tea, apparently, based on the label. Speaking of that, you just reminded me to take a sip. But thanks for coming back. I appreciate you being here every single Friday hanging out with us. Augustin, let's go get some CAS. Yeah, we're having a little correction right now. And remember, guys, these prices aren't going to last forever. So any little dip right now is probably a good chance to buy some Caspa. Right? Once we get into Q4, I imagine we're going to see some pretty big candles where we're never coming back down to these levels until maybe the bear market. So time is of the essence, and we shouldn't have that much longer unless there's always this scenario where we could go into Q1, you know what I mean, before we get alt season. I don't think that is my base case at this point because, let's just base everything on history until history breaks, right? And it seems like things are lining up for Q4, so until we get to Q4 and nothing happens, then I'm still going to believe that we're going to get an alt season in Q4. Stefan, I hope the KRC20s help Caspa get more people interested in it like Solana's memes did for it. Yeah, I think more so than the KRC20s. I think these newly implemented smart contracts on Egra Labs is making a layer 2, and what was the other one? It slipped my mind. Caspador, I believe, is working on it. Anyways, I'm not going to spend 10 minutes trying to think of the name off the top of my head, but I think the legitimate smart contracts are actually going to bring in more people than the KRC20s. That's just my opinion. KRC20 should pump with, the whole Caspa ecosystem, but I think that legitimate smart contracts are going to have a bigger impact on Caspa. There's going to be more meme coins built on that. There's going to be more utility projects built on those. And I think that's where you're going to see most of the people flock to, I guess you could say. Because the KRC20s are kind of like a soft version of a smart contract. They're very simple. Code-wise, it's kind of like the Bitcoin runes. And they'll have their season, during this bull market, I would imagine. But, when Caspa pumps, everything below it tends to pump too. And I don't think KRC20 is going to be any different. So, and maybe KRC20, being the original, OGs of Caspa, do have, a pretty good stint where they do have some, pretty good X's, and, maybe people do want them more than, meme coins built on the regular smart contracts. Who knows? Jerry, I literally have no idea what that means. Are you drunk, Jerry? I know we're at a bar. But you need to calm down. In very T7, whatever that is, awe. Maybe that's another language. Put the drink down. J, top 10 KRC 20s after smart contracts will 100x. Some of them might. Not all of them will. Apple, shout out to me. Good morning. You're shouting out yourself, huh? That's funny. But yes, good morning where you're at. I appreciate you hanging out. Greetings from Belgium. Welcome, Blue Bullet. Riley, what's up? Bufflink says, I hit the like button. Have you? Yeah, remember, guys. Pay your bar tabs. Like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. That's a must do before you leave the bar. Pay your tabs. What if ETH goes 3 or 4x? How many x's will Caspa do? It's extremely hard to say. So that would put ETH, around 10K or something like that. I would imagine if ETH 3 or 4x's, Caspa would probably 10x minimum. But remember, I'm just literally basing that off of nothing. But it's a lower market cap and it should move more. So typically, your good projects in lower market caps are going to move more than the bigger caps. So if ETH does a 3 or 4x, you would think Caspa should at least do, double that or more. Probably more. So KJI says, let's go to the moon. The rocket ship. Oh, here we go. Kill Quincy. Rampage is a full-on Caspian, confirmed. Very interesting. I'll have to look that up. So maybe that is a Caspa hat on him. But the K is the right way around, so I don't know how that works. Prime Minister of Japan. Whoa, wait, welcome in. I didn't know I was that big of a figurehead for the Prime Minister of Japan to tune in to my tiny little YouTube channel. Wow. Welcome, Prime Minister of Japan. I just watched the debate Caspa Silver had with those maxis. The truth is, Cas doesn't need Bitcoin maxi approval to succeed. I think maybe Cas should drift from trying to be compared to Bitcoin. Cas doesn't need BTC. So, yeah, I think the principle behind this is Caspa's not trying to be Bitcoin, but it's trying to complement Bitcoin, right? Because it has the same principles as Bitcoin, but you can actually send a transaction instantaneously with a fraction of a cent, fee. And so I think that's what the point that Caspians are trying to get across is that if you're into Bitcoin because of the principles and the sovereignty and the hard money aspect of it, right? Then Caspa sharing those exact same principles, but you can transfer money, like I said, instantaneously with low fees, fraction of a cent, then why not use both? Why not use Bitcoin as the store of value, but you can, transfer value and transfer your hard money with Caspa. And I think what we're trying to do is, I agree with you, we don't need Bitcoin maxis to be successful. But I think what we're trying to do is have at least a percentage of them understand, because they don't know what Caspa is. And clearly some of them have started doing some research, and they're understanding that, there is something there. And it does have the same principles as Bitcoin, and that there shouldn't be fighting in between us. There should be cohesion, right? Because payments store a value. Payments store a value. And you can still send payments with Bitcoin if you want to. If you want to wait 30 minutes for the transaction and you want to pay $10 as a fee for a transaction, there's no one stopping anybody from doing that, right? But if you want a cheaper option that has the exact same principles as Bitcoin, right? That's why a lot of the maxis got into Bitcoin, is because of that sovereignty. Then Caspa has those same, underbelly effects to it. And so I think we're just trying to kind of make some people, right? Not everybody's going to understand, but some people understand that Caspa, is very similar to Bitcoin in certain ways, and you can just send money a lot faster and cheaper with it, while being just as secure. So, you're going to get maxis that are never going to, see the light, right? They're stuck in their ways. That's fine. But there's going to be some open-minded that decide that, wow, this is actually pretty cool. And then they're going to invest in Bitcoin and Caspa only, right? And you don't need all of them. You just need a percentage. And I think that's going to help the Caspa community. I think that's going to help Caspa, get more legitimized, right, as a legitimate crypto asset in the space. And I think it's a good thing overall. Hey, KASPA'S, Octa, can you check the chart? Is only 20 million is 100x. You want me to check Octa's price? Or did somebody come out with a coin called KASPA'S? That I can guarantee you is a scam. Octa is an okay project. It's not something I invest in. But I think you're going to be able to... they merged somehow OctaSpace and Caspa. I don't remember exactly the details to it, but you're going to be able to use the Caspa main chain on OctaSpace for gaming or something, if I remember right, which is kind of cool news. That means OctaSpace understands what Caspa is. Let me see here. Yeah, OctaSpace. It's an okay project. I don't know that it's going to 100x. It does have an 18.8 million market cap, as you can see here. Or you can't see here. There you go. Yeah, let me see here. And as you can see, it's been around for this is the main thing that worries me about OctaSpace. It's been around since 2022, early 2022, or maybe late 2022, early 2023. And it only has 3 exchange listings. And you can, Coin Metro or Safe Trade, I've never heard of them. I guess you can technically say 5. CoinX, Gate, and MEXC are decent. But if you've been around that long and you only have, 3 decent centralized exchanges, that doesn't sit well with me. You should have far more by that amount of time. I mean, look at the amount of exchanges. Obviously, there's no tier 1s except for Kraken, but Caspa has like dozens of exchange listings, and they didn't pay for any of it. So that worries me a little bit about OctaSpace. One of the reasons why I'm not investing it, you can still make money off of it, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that's going to be in my portfolio personally. Paul, greetings from the Philippines, Caspa community. Welcome, Paul. Zigzag, Caspa is a sleeping giant. Yes, it is. And what's funny is, I don't know how many X's Caspa is going to do. It may not do as many X's as some other projects out there because of its grassroots launch, and it doesn't have any, marketing budget or anything like that. But you're going to get, decent X's with it, but you're also holding a project that even Bitcoin maximalists, some, are starting to legitimize. And if that doesn't tell you anything, then I don't know how to help you. You got to understand Jonathan Sampolinsky's past as well, and what he's done for Bitcoin since 2011. Okay? That legitimizes the project. Like, we could go on a tangent on why Caspa is probably going to hang around, why it's going to be here multiple cycles, why it's probably going to be a legitimate mainstay in the top 5 or 10 at some point, and why it is, just one of, easily, in my opinion, the most legitimate projects out there moving forward. But that's for another video. The thing that gets me every single time, right? And I don't waver in my conviction at all on Caspa, but if any of you guys ever do, just remember one thing. Jonathan Sampolinsky, and go back and study again what he did from 2011 till now in the Caspa space. And your conviction will come back full send. 100%. I guarantee it. He is, by far, the most respected and legitimate dude in the space, in my opinion. And he's the lead developer for Caspa. And just another quick little story if you guys missed my last live stream. In the Bitcoin forum, Zohar and Jonathan, which are the two guys that created the Ghost Protocol, tried to hard fork, right, Bitcoin. And in the forum, right, Bitcoin was really small back then, so there wasn't a whole lot of people in there, tried to implement the Ghost Protocol on the Bitcoin chain so that they could speed up Bitcoin and scale it, right, more than it, because Jonathan and Zohar understood that where it is right now, and if you continue down this road, you're not going to be able to scale Bitcoin, right? You're not going to be able to scale it. And so they tried to pitch this Ghost Protocol on the Bitcoin chain to speed it up and so it would be scalable in the future, and it was rejected by everybody. And so they said, okay, right? It's a community-driven project. The vast majority of people don't want this. That's fine. But that's what started the venture into Caspa. They said, you know what? Bitcoin's not going to scale. We know that in the future, technology is going to advance, and people are going to want fast, cheap transactions. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go out and we are going to use this Ghost Protocol. We're going to launch a project the same way Bitcoin was launched, using the same principles, the same consensus mechanism, and we're going to call it Caspa. And they worked on that protocol from 2013, roughly, until 2021 when they launched it. late 2021, almost early 2022. They launched the project, Caspa, and look at how much steam in a very short amount of time, relevantly, right, to life, a 3-year window. Look at how much steam, look at how much traction it's gotten. Look at how much legitimacy it's gotten in just that short amount of time. That is what you need to go back and take a look at if you ever waver in conviction from Caspa again. Right? And I guarantee you, reminding yourself that Yonatan Sampolinski is behind the project and that it's in good hands, right? He was literally one of the pioneers for Bitcoin back in the day. Then you understand that your investment is probably safe. Zigzag, Caspa is barely available on many exchanges. They're gatekeeping it, throttling it. That's a possibility. I think it's a mixture of that and just the fact that they're not getting free Caspa to, create a listing with. And so the process is slower. They're going to want to capitalize on trading fees at some point. So there will be some exchanges that list it. But I do push back on barely available on many exchanges. U.S. exchanges, yes. But if you go look at the amount of exchanges that Caspa is actually on, you can't really say it's not available on barely any, because I'm going to pull this up real quick. Tier 1s, yes. U.S. exchanges, yes. But exchanges in general, it actually is quite extensive, right? We go down here and we look at all these exchanges. There is 9 pages of centralized exchanges that Caspa is listed on, right? And most of them are outside of the U.S., so if that's what you were talking about, I fully understand, fully agree, right? And Tier 1s, I fully understand, fully agree. But exchanges, you got Bybit, BitGet, Mexi, Gate, KuCoin, BingX, Kraken, which is a Tier 1 in the U.S., right? It's the only one. Bitmart, LBank, XT, KuCoin, Bybit. Why are they listed on... Why is it doing it again? Hold on a second. Interesting. Okay, well, either way, it's listing a few of them doubly over here for some reason, but you've got Pionex, which is actually turned into a somewhat legitimate exchange, and they do sell Nacho over there as well. Okay, so some of these are duplicating over here. Either way, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11. You got handfuls of exchanges that Caspa is actually listed on. Plenty of places that you could buy it if you want to, okay? We're still missing OKX. We're still missing Coinbase, Binance, Crypto.com. I think some of those will come this year. Maybe not all of them, but some of them I think will come. Mila, so frustrating that market is in much better condition now, but Binance is still waiting to list CAS. I guess we can see what smart contracts next week will do. Yeah. I imagine... I don't think we're fully out of the woods yet. I think, like I said, the engines are starting. We've seen a couple signs here that things, are potentially going to get better right around the corner, but they haven't fully gotten better yet. And I think that is what these exchanges are waiting for. I think they're waiting until we are legitimately in uptrends and in upswings where we're seeing green candles on a daily basis, very few red candles, right? Where we're going to see multiple days of green candles and then a little bit of red Multiple days of green candles, a little bit of red, right? And we might just be getting to the beginning of that. And I think it's going to take, when we're in like full swing, where it's become, almost commonplace. When you look at your portfolio, it's a little bit higher and a little bit higher and a little bit higher and a little bit higher, is when we're going to get the surprise listings of some of these bigger exchanges. I think it's still a little bit too early because we might have some more downside in Q3, in my opinion. So that's just what I think. Do you think IGRA token will be a success for Kaspa? I don't know, actually. If you want to, it'll be similar to a token like, what are some layer 2s on Ethereum? Like, man, it's been so long since I've been up to date over there. But there was a few like Arbitrum, I guess Polygon from last cycle. What was the other one? There was another one that came out around Arbitrum's time that was red. The color of the coin was red. Anyways, it'll be similar to some of those. And the only issue with it is that you're not going to have the use case of it. I don't know what it's going to be. You're going to have the trading fees go back to the base chain of Kaspa, which is good. I would definitely say, though, if you get in the pre-sale and you run up that original pump and you sell for some profit, you'll probably do very well. Because look at what Zealous Swap did. A lot of people made some pretty good X's off of the initial pump off of that coin. So if you can get in the pre-sale, I think you can by buying some NFTs, some certain NFTs. You'll get airdrop some coins, or you'll get a pre-sale price access to buy. I think you'll do very well. Hey, Sugar Lump, what's going on? I appreciate the hearts. Dude, Kaspa won't be listed on Binance. Do you work for Binance? How do you know that? Or are you just guessing? Because unless you have inside information, I don't agree with you. I think they will list. I don't think they've ever listed a coin for futures trading and not listed the coin at some point afterwards. And they have their own mining farms. So I don't agree with that. You got to give reason. You can't just say that. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right. Who knows? We're going to have to wait and see. If we get to the end of this year and they haven't listed yet, then you're probably going to be right. That being said, though, they're not going to, especially if Kaspa hangs around multi-cycles, they're not going to not list it. Let's be honest. If it garners the respect of a legitimate asset in the space, all exchanges will list it, even if it wasn't this cycle. So, but I still think they're going to list this cycle in Q4. My reputation depends on what I just said. Okay, guys. We're going to end the stream. I got to take off. Appreciate everybody for being here. Love you all. Pay your bar tabs before you take off. And what that consists of, for those of you who weren't around in the beginning, is hit the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already. 10,000 subscribers. We're going to give away 10,000 Kaspa. Right now, that's worth about... Actually, it's probably more than $900 right now. I didn't do the math of the current price. But by the time, if we reach 10,000 during the, parabolic part of this bull run later this year, then that's going to be worth a hell of a lot of money, and you're going to get it right in time to be able to sell for a lot of profits for free. Okay? So hit the subscribe button, and in the meantime, guys, continue to pack your damn bags before it's too late.